Here is how to upgrade your Defguard instance from version 1 to version 2. I have a Defguard instance running here, and it's in the latest stable version, which is currently 1.6.5. I also have a single location configured called demo, and there is a single gateway connected to this location. I also have a single user, my administrator, and the user has one device configured. I also have a desktop client set up for this location, and I can connect to the VPN. I am already connected to this location, and the core UI is available only after connecting to the VPN. So I can browse through the UI of the core because I am connected. But if I disconnect right now, you'll be able to see that I no longer have access to the core UI. Let's connect again. The instance was deployed to AWS. I created a VPC in AWS, and the VPC has two subnets, one private and one public. And I also have 3 EC2 instances running, one for each Defguard component. So I have one EC2 running core component, which is deployed to a private subnet without a public IP assigned. And I also have a separate EC2 for my gateway deployed in the public subnet. And I also have a separate EC2 for the proxy component. And this one is also deployed in the public subnet. And both the core and the proxy components are behind reverse proxy. So I can access the core UI using HTTPS. And I can also access the UI of the proxy component using HTTPS. So as you can see, I have a fully functional Defguard environment, and it was deployed using all the security rules that we mentioned in our documentation. So right now, let's try to upgrade this version 1.6 to version 2. So I have 3 terminal windows open here. The first terminal window is core. The second one is EC2 running the gateway, and the third one is EC2 running the proxy. So we can start the migration process by upgrading the core component. So the core was started using Docker Compose. So in order to upgrade the component, I need to edit the Docker Compose configuration file. As you can see right now, the image version is 1.6.5, and I'll just upgrade it to 2.0. I'm using the beta 1 version, but we are releasing the stable version soon, so you definitely should be using the stable version in your case. Okay, let's just now save the file. Let's pull the image. And let's just now start the image in the new version. Okay, let's display the logs. And let's go to the core UI. So Defguard has already started the migration process, and it informs me that the core has been upgraded, and the process will include adopting the edge component and migrating locations and gateways. What's important here is we have renamed the proxy component to edge component. So whenever I'm using the term edge, I'm referring to the component that was previously named proxy. Okay, we can start the migration process right now. So the migration process is using your previous configuration that was stored in environment variables or configuration files, and it displays the values whenever the values were configured. So you don't have to configure it again. So in that case, I'll just have to confirm that all the parameters that are being displayed are correct. In my case, they are correct, and I can continue with the process. Next, Defguard suggests creating a custom certificate authority. Previously, this had to be created and configured manually. In the latest version, this is fully automated, so there's nothing to worry about. This ensures secure communication between Defguard components by issuing certificates using a custom certificate authority. So I just need to provide an email address for the certificate authority, and I can continue. I can download the certificate if I want, and I can continue. Next, Defguard begins the process of adopting the Edge component. The UI shows different examples on how to run it. So I started my proxy using Docker Compose, so I will follow this example. Now I will edit the Docker Compose file and upgrade the proxy component. At the end, there's a volumes directive, and I need to set this volume in my configuration file. This volume will be used to store certificates issued for the Edge component by the core component while adopting it. So I'll just set the volume here. I can save the configuration file. I can pull the image. And start the new version. Okay, in the UI, I can confirm that I have deployed Edge in the latest version. Next, I should give a name for my Edge component. Let's just name it Edge1. And here I can confirm if the IP and gRPC port are correct. So in my case, that should be the private IP address of the proxy EC2 instance. And the gRPC port is the correct one. So let's just check if the IP is correct. It should end in 232. So the EC2 running my proxy component is this one. And the IP should be 10.0.11.3.232. And that is correct. So Defguard recognized that previously I had this configuration in my environment, and it just asks me to confirm. So right now we can move on to the adoption process. And the adoption is the process of issuing a certificate for the Edge component to secure communication between Edge and core. So let's try to adopt the Edge component. And it succeeded, all the certificates were issued, and the communication was established. I can continue with the process. Next, we move to the internal URL settings. Here you can edit the internal URL of the core. In my case, I don't want to change the URL, and as I mentioned before, I already have SSL configured using a reverse proxy, so I won't be using the options mentioned here. If you started from scratch, you might be interested in generating certificates based on the custom certificate authority or uploading your own certificates. These options will be mentioned in another video that is running Defguard in version 2.0 from scratch. Let's just continue. Here I should just confirm that the configuration of my reverse proxy is correct. I can continue. Next, the external URL settings. Here, the same story. So I don't want to change the URL. I want to leave it as is. And I also don't want to configure SSL because I already have done it and it's working. I have a bunch of other options available, and these will be explained in the video about starting from scratch. Let's continue. Same as before, I need to confirm that my reverse proxy was configured correctly, and I can continue. So the initial system configuration is now complete. The remaining step is migrating the existing locations. So Defguard detected one VPN location, which will be upgraded. For security and usability reasons, the communication between core and gateway has changed. So previously gateway connected to core, and in the latest version, this is reversed. Core connects to the gateway. And because of that, we need to upgrade our firewall rules. So Defguard suggests me to allow connections from the core to the gateways on TCP port 566, and to block connections from the gateways to the core. Let's now configure the rules in the firewall. So if I go to my instance settings, let's first allow traffic from core to the gateways. So I'll just edit the instance security group. Here I only allow UDP port for WireGuard and TCP port 22 for SSH. And we'll add another rule, custom TCP port 566, which is the gRPC port of the gateway. And source, let's pick security group of core. So we only allow gRPC traffic from core to the gateway right now. Next, in the core instance, we need to block communication from the gateways to the core. So I need to go to security. And here you can see I used to allow communicating on port 555, which is the gRPC port of core. And right now we can delete this rule and save it. Okay, I can confirm that I have changed all my gateway's firewall rules, and I can continue. Defguard now starts migrating the VPN locations. In my case, there's just one location called demo, and let's start the migration. First, Defguard shows examples on how to deploy a gateway component in the new version. My gateway was run using a package, and let's now try to upgrade it. Okay, first, let's check the current version. Current version of my gateway is 1.6.5, and right now I will install the latest version. Okay, let's check the version again. As you can see, now I have version 2.0. Okay, and let's now restart the service. And let's check the logs. Okay, so I can confirm that my gateway was started correctly and upgraded, and I can continue. And here Defguard asks me about information on my gateway. So I need to give the name for my gateway. Let's name it gateway 1. And I need to also specify the IP address or domain of my gateway. In my case, that should be the private IP address of my EC2 instance that is running the gateway component. So if I go to AWS, the private IP address of my gateway is this one. I'll just copy it. And let's try to adopt the gateway component. Okay, gateway was also adopted correctly. We can continue. And Defguard informs me that the gateway component was configured successfully. Okay, the migration is complete. We can now verify it by going to the locations view. As you can see, my location was migrated. I also have a gateway connected to this location. In the edge components view, we can see that the edge component was also configured correctly. And in the user's view, the administrator and his device is still present. The migration is fully transparent to end users, So we should still be able to connect to the VPN using the same configuration. And as you can see, while performing the whole migration process, I was able to access the UI of my core component, and I was connected to the VPN for the whole time. And to check if the VPN connection is working as expected, I'll disconnect from the VPN. And if we refresh the UI of core, we should not be able to access it anymore. As you can see, the site is not reachable. And if I connect again, I should be able to reach the core UI. And as you can see, it is working. And that is how you migrate your Defguard instance from version 1 to version 2.